Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our Tuesday Q&A at the St. Louis Arc. I'm Sharon Spurlock, the Senior Director of Family Support, and we've got one of my favorite topics today. We're going to be talking about College for All, and we've got a wonderful coalition of people from our post-secondary programs in Missouri who have created a new resource for individuals and families that they are here to talk to us about today. Without further ado, I want to give our panel a chance to introduce themselves, tell you what their connection is to the Show Me Missouri project, and then they're going to show you a little bit of information about what they've been working on. So Megan Rooney, why don't we start with you?
So I am an assistant professor at the University of Missouri, St. Louis. So April and I are working on a grant. It's a TIPSID grant focused on expanding and developing Succeed, which is an inclusive post-secondary program at University of Missouri, St. Louis. And one of our goals is this project. I will pass it over to April to let her introduce herself, and then we can tell you a little bit more about Show Me College after we talk about Kate too.
I am an associate professor at the University of Missouri St. Louis, and a department chair for educator preparation and leadership. And about 10 years ago, along with some other great people at the university and colleagues, including Sharon Spurlock at St. Louis Arc, I helped to start UMSL Succeed, which is an inclusive post-secondary program. And like Megan said, I'm currently a co-PI on our TIPSID grant, which is a grant that goes for 5 years. And we are one of 22, I think it's 22 model demonstration sites for these programs across the United States. So excited to share with you all what we've been working on.
Thank you, April. And Kate, let's get an introduction. You're not from UMSL.
I am not from UMSL. I'm from the other side of the state and from Kansas City, from the University of Missouri at Kansas City's Institute for Human Development, which does research, applied research into developmental disabilities. And we are helping to build the website.
So I'm not gonna do what I said I was gonna do and turn it over to you, because I want April. You guys used a few acronyms. I want you to talk a little bit about the fact that when you started the inclusive education programs at UMSL, we did not have a federal grant, which is what the TIPSID grant is. And so getting this grant was a really big deal. Can you just very briefly summarize some of the things that you wanted to be able to do that the grant has allowed you to move forward with?
So yes, so the grants run for 5-year cycles, and the Department of Education is on its 3rd cycle of this funding. And we started in 2013 was our first cohort of students at our program, and we did not have that funding. So what was unique to receiving the funding starting in 2020, and so we have it from 2020 to 2025, was that we could focus on things that weren't just about the development of a program. So many other places might want to develop a program, and they're using that funding to make that happen. So we had a focus on enhancing existing programming that we have going on. We also had a focus on building capacity within the state and in our region through a regional alliance and through things like what you're going to hear about today. I'm trying to think, and to also develop pathways for students who are currently enrolled in the program that are more in line with industry recognized credentials. So those are kind of 3 big areas that we've been focusing on. And what we're going to talk about today is really under that 3rd goal, where we partnered with UMKC's Institute of I always forget the IHD and
Institute for Human Development.
Thank you. And the USAID. And we really got them involved because we know their capacity to reach a larger audience and really get the word out. And so they partnered with us, which is why we were fortunate to have Kate join the team to work on this site. So this is part of our goal 3 of the grant.
Thank you. I think that gives everybody a little bit of context for where we're going. So Megan and Kate, I'm going to turn it over to you. I know you've got a short presentation about this resource that's now available to everybody in the country and the world who wants to learn about post-secondary education opportunities in Missouri.
These programs, like I said, are really coming out of some funding that was designated within the Department of Education to provide better and more access to students with intellectual disabilities. And so what we're specifically talking about, and you'll hear us use the acronym IPSE, or sometimes just PSE. And so on the slide, you can see it says Inclusive Post-Secondary Education Programs. And these are specific to providing these higher education opportunities for students with intellectual disabilities who prior to 2008 actually did not have some policy that supported that access. And so with the Higher Education Opportunity Act, we saw more of these programs be developed. There were some prior to that time, but more programs being developed that really took some barriers away for students to access them. So barriers such as students can apply to be a part of these programs with a high school diploma or a certificate of completion. Students also have a barrier of financial cost, and with that legislation in 2008, it provided students with another opportunity to apply using FAFSA to get some financial support through Pell Grants and some other opportunities. And it really paved the way for colleges, four-year colleges and universities to develop programs that offered these types of services and supports. So you will hear us refer to IPSE, which means that we designate these programs through all of those definitions, and that the students who are participating in these programs have access to the university in which the program is housed, in terms of coursework, potentially housing if that's available at the university, supports and services at the university, activities at the university, kind of the full experience. And it's not necessarily a separate program that might be housed in a building at the university, but it's kind of incorporated in all aspects. Many of these programs have goals that pertain to independent living skills, vocational career goals, and educational goals, perhaps in terms of future continuing education for degrees or certificates.
Yeah, so as April said, students in these programs, they receive job training, they attend courses that focus on developing employment skills as well as academic skills. Oftentimes they live on campus and they participate on campus activities. So campus clubs, they go to the rec center, all that fun stuff that we do, that all other students do in college. That's what an inclusive college program offers students with intellectual disabilities. In our state, there are currently 3 programs. So we have UMSL Succeed, which April was talking about, that she started in 2013. There's Thrive at the University of Central Missouri. And then there's Bear Power at Missouri State. And if you want to learn more about each of these programs, head on over to showmecollege.com. So all 3 of these are our comprehensive transition program. And we're sharing this term because it's very important and kind of related to what April said. So programs that are deemed comprehensive transition programs, students can apply for FAFSA, which means they're eligible for federal financial aid, so they can get the Pell Grant, and they can also qualify for work study. All 3 programs in Missouri are CTPs. So we developed Show Me College as one of the initiatives for the grant because we wanted to raise awareness that college is possible for students with intellectual and developmental disabilities. April kind of described that there's been lots of barriers to attending these programs, and part of those barriers are just honestly not knowing what's out there or how to prepare for them. So we wanted to create a resource hub for tools and resources to help students, parents, and teachers prepare youth for college. And like we talked about, this is a collaboration with UMKC. Kate Duffy is our content developer. So she has been instrumental on getting all of the content in the website and figuring out what we need on the website. So check us out at showmecollege.com. Kate, do you want to provide any other information about kind of like why we created the website or anything people should know before we dive into what's on the site?
I think like Megan said, there was not a lot of awareness that students with IDD were able to go to college programs. In fact, I'm not sure that a lot of teachers knew about it, and definitely parents and families and students. So this was just to create a campaign, kind of an educational campaign, so people could learn that this is a possibility.
So currently we're going to have kind of different pillars. So we're going to have a student pillar, a teacher pillar, which Kate and I are hard at work developing right now. And then we're going to develop more pillars later. But right now we do have some resources for future students. So moral of the story is keep checking back because we're going to have lots of new things as we go. For students, we have College is Possible, which is shares student success stories. So Kate did an incredible job of talking to students in our state who have attended college and have videos and testimonials of why it was important for them to go to college, which we were really excited about because we really wanted students in Missouri to go to this website and see themselves on the website. So these are Missouri students who have gone to programs in Missouri. We also have Prepare for College, which gives you tips and tools and ways that you can prepare for college in a variety of different ways in your school, at home, and in your community. We also have Choose a College. So if you are you've decided you want to go to college, but you really don't know where you're gonna go, we have a guide to help you explore the different areas of college. Pay for College, which is a big one, and how to navigate college. So what do you do when you get there? So student success stories, as I said, there's videos of students who have been successful at college. So feel free to share these with people you know who are considering college, especially those who might be worried about college, might be a little nervous, but show them, here, look at it. Here's Jackson. He did it and he killed it.
This page was a lot of fun to do because interviewing the students and finding out their reasons for going to college, and sometimes what they got out of college was very surprising, things we weren't expecting. It was a group of students with all different, kind of on a spectrum of skill levels, of interest levels. So it's a pretty representative group, I think.
Our next page is we have Prepare for College. So we developed a guide on different ways you can prepare for college. So things you can do in elementary and middle school, such as joining clubs, participating in inclusive classes, what you can do in high school. So for example, join clubs or organizations, enroll in different courses, start leading your IEP, and things you can do in your community. So joining the fitness center, learning how to navigate your community, all those skills that are going to help prepare you for college. Choosing a College, we have 8 different key features of inclusive college programs, and Kate developed an incredible guide that you can print out and take with you if you decide to do a program tour. So if you're thinking about going to college, come over to UMSL, go to Thrive, go to Bear Power, and bring this guide with. And it has all these really great questions to help you understand what is this program about? Because the thing is, all these programs are incredibly different. And so it's important to make sure that you pick a program that aligns with your own goals and values. So things to focus on are inclusion. When are you going to be interacting with your peers without disabilities? What are you going to have access to on campus? What academic courses are available? What vocational courses are available? What internships are available? Maybe what industries are there? Do you have collaborations with? How many internships do you get? What do you graduate with, right? So those graduation certificates and vocational credentials are really important in proving hey, I went to college, this is what I did. So figuring out what do you get after that time, what financial aid is available. All 3 are CTPs, so you can apply for FAFSA. Campus life, do I have to live on campus? Can I live on campus? What does that look like? And what do graduates do? You want to know what happens afterwards, right? Because as much as we want to go to college just for fun, we want to know what's our outcomes and what does the program do to help you support that transition after college. Pay for College, we have lots of different information on how to pay for college. So what are Medicaid waivers and how can you use them? What are 529 plans? Those are savings plans to save for college. pass plans. Kate created a great video that should be up within the next couple of weeks, helping you navigate all the steps of creating a pass plan and more. So Kate also created a great list of what are the scholarships available in Missouri, just helping people understand that college is possible and you can pay for it. Then there's also a page about navigating college, and this really focuses on understanding what is the difference between high school and college, because college is very different in a lot of different ways. So for example, you're not entitled to services like you were in high school. You're deemed eligible. So that process might look a little different. I know there was a question in the chat about how do you access accommodations? And the thing is every university is going to be very different. So if we had broad suggestions, we would say go to your disability support provider, disability services at your university, and find out what their process is for getting accommodations. On the website, you can also deep dive a little bit more into the 3 programs in our state, because those ones we're really promoting, but really most of the information on the site can be applied anywhere. It's just, we want to promote our Missouri programs because we're proud of them.
I'm really excited to see this website, and I think it answered some of the questions people had about how can I prepare when I'm in high school, the kinds of things I should be thinking about, and really taking that opportunity for your student to take the lead in going to this webpage. There's tons of information for them, so they can be the ones that lead this conversation about college. One question that I had is that if I want to find out about what all those other college opportunities are, if I do want to go out of state, are there resources for that?
That would be thinkcollege.com. So thinkcollege.com is actually our national coordinating center for our TIPSID grant. And so they kind of support all of the programs across the entire country. So if you go to thinkcollege.com, they have a great tool where you can look at programs all across the country.
All right. We do have a question. Is it easy to transfer between these programs? Like if you don't like one and want to transfer?
I would say that each of the programs have different experiences at their universities. So like Megan shared on one of the, I forget which one, but like the checklist of what would you want to look for if you went to a campus to visit. You would want to look at those different programs and then identify, and if you wanted to transfer or go to a different, you would probably need to go in and apply specifically to that particular program separately. It's not like an immediate transfer. However, I'm sure our programs all speak very closely with each other. So to help with your application, if there were materials that you needed us to share from one program to the other, I don't anticipate anybody having issues to help support you if that was something that you chose to do. So if someone was in one of those programs and was seeking a different type of experience, they wanted to be in a more urban environment, or they wanted to live on campus in housing or whatever that might be, you would let your program know, and then you would be able to get some support in some of the materials that the other programs might be needing.
Mm-hmm. We do have a kind of a follow-up question about accommodations, and if you could maybe speak to the specific scenario at UMSL, if you can't speak more broadly. Do you know, as far as the disability access offices, do they want documentation of disability that's within a certain time frame of entry into college?
That's a really, really good question. And the reason we provided kind of a more general is because each of those offices have something different. Mm-hmm. So each of a public university that offers a disability access office, that office will have a form that usually you can go on to any of those and look up. It's public information that they will say, here is what makes you eligible for supports or services. They generally will ask for documentation, and from our experience at UMSL, it can be documentation that could range from an evaluation that has been done, a doctor's, report, to IEPs that are recent. So it's a big range, and I'm hesitant to offer any sort of a time frame, because that can even be negotiated and contested within our own university, depending on what materials that we have to provide to support the student. So if students are applying to Succeed, we offer some support for that process through our office. And that often, might be that we have documentation that we can provide that can allow someone to obtain services through the Disability Access Office. So the best thing you can do is go to those office websites or go to one of our program sites and look at the information there that tells you what you would need to become eligible for those supports. And that's the best thing you can do, because it would be different at each university.
Yeah. And there is an expectation with a lot of our case management support, service coordination, that you get reevaluated in the 18 to 19-year-old range anyway. So there's probably going to be something that's already sort of dictated that would be usable if you're connected to that system. So I was surprised to see that Medicaid waiver was on your list, and we have some questions about how in the heck would I use a Medicaid waiver to help me at college?
Medicaid waiver can pay for a variety of college costs, from tuition and fees to tutoring and peer supports like that. It just depends on the individual student's needs, what's going to help them be successful. But the other thing to know is you need to get your into the state services so that you're on Medicaid, and apply early for the waiver. Because at times, in Missouri's waiver history, there's been a long enough waiting list that could really slow up the process. But in general, it's a pretty broad ranging tool for paying for college.
It can be tricky here in this St. Louis area, because a waiver can exempt you from access to some of our county funded services. And so sometimes those are better suited to meet the needs of a college student. So just be sure that you are well informed when you move forward with any of the planning that you're doing. And I'll just give myself a chance to promote. We have family navigators here at the ARC for each life stage. So we've got 2 navigators that are working with the 18 to plus to 26, 27-year-old crowd that are probably most likely to be looking at college, and they'd be happy to help you think through some of those questions and make sure that you're getting all the information you need before you make a decision. And really the question about when to apply for Medicaid, that you can apply for Medicaid and get case management services without a waiver. So there's probably pros and cons for anybody about when they apply for Medicaid. But if you want to apply, I would say there's no reason not to look into it when you're an adult at the age of 18 legally. What is your partnership with community colleges? Do you all interface with them? Are you considering including them in this idea of Show Me College?
As part of the TIPSID programs, there's a very clear definition on what those mean. And so part of our TIPSID grant was to promote the programs that are kind of meeting that definition. So there's a lot of different things in terms of that, but one big piece is kind of all of the things that we talked about in terms of access to all of the courses that a university is offering, residential housing components, all of those pieces. So most community college programs don't necessarily meet that federal definition, but we partner with them in terms of students who are wanting to move on. So a lot of times we have a lot of transfer students at UMSL in general. And so just like students who might be transferring for a certain degree program, you might have students that are experiencing some aspect of one of our community college programming and then realize that they would like to continue on and come into one of our programs that offer kind of a different experience than what they've had there. So I would say the biggest differences would be kind of the residential options, some more intense programming, often like around the vocational internships and coursework related, and a larger index of courses that are coming from degree programs at the university or undergraduate certificates that might not be available at all of the community college partners. So
Yeah.
We're focused on that definition, and that's why they might not be highlighted on the website, because we are really focused on that definition of eligibility for being a comprehensive transition program. And other states do have community colleges that identify as a CTP, but there currently aren't any in Missouri.
Are the costs for a program like this more expensive than for a matriculating program?
So each of the programs are going to have different costs. So it's something to note. It's not like across the board the same. At UMSL, I can speak for that particular cost, is we have attempted to make that program mirror what the cost would be for students who are coming to the university for a degree program. So we've managed, so there's a program fee, and then there's a housing fee, and some additional costs for some of the, if a student is choosing to take credit bearing courses, we have managed that cost to mirror essentially the same for a degree seeking student. And in the future, we will be moving to a different financial model that will be completely done like our peers in other departments who have degree programs. So it is not anymore at UMSL, but these prices are vary depending on programs across the state and across the US. So that is why they put that on that checklist of how, what are the financial costs, and then what financial supports might you have at each one of those universities.
Thank you all for coming today. Thank you so much, team. It's a great website. I personally am going to convince our families with elementary school kiddos to look at it, because I want those 529s to be ready for college when it's time for the next generation. So thanks for coming.